Oh, Chad, here we go. Here we go. Welcome in, the FUT Economist. Welcome in, everybody. Can we get a W spam? Let's go.
What's up, gang? How we doing?
Let's go. All right. So I was just telling them that I was going to check the content to start things off.
Okay.
Go through the SBCs.
Sure.
And let me just move this forward so we can both get in here. But
Yeah.
They were spamming one that it sounded okay. So
Okay.
I think they're excited to see you.
Yeah. You know what I don't miss, just from the streaming days, I don't miss having like the tech issues and having to like ask the chat, like, is it actually, can you hear me? Is there a delay? Whatever it is. But
You know, I was mentioning to somebody here earlier today that I was in a Discord call with you back in like 2017 trying to figure out how to stream from my Mac when I was in college.
Yeah.
When you were streaming.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
But
throwback.
yes, guys, we're going to get to our questions. We have a lot of them for sure. But what I want to do first is, I think it's about to be content time. I want to go through the new SBCs, EVOs, whatever we get today, and ask a couple of questions about what we got. Just because we have this opportunity to see this live in action and talk to somebody who's actually helped make this content and dreamed it up. So, first questions. No, look at content first. I know they're excited about no more green times. I think that's what a lot of them are saying in the chat.
Yeah, fair enough.
All right, SBCs. Neto, Alvaro, Aspas. Okay. I was kind of hoping for another SBC today, but Aspas is 5'5" striker with cam. He has got power shot, dead ball, tiki taka plus, incisive, technical trickster, press proven, quick step, finesse, low driven. Dub. And he's only one squad, 88 with a Spanish player. Okay, so that's a pretty cheap one. Talk to me about like all these player SBCs.
Yeah. Well, I think one of the fun things about FUTties is that the accessibility of like top-end content kind of goes through the roof. That's kind of like one of the things that is kind of like the hook, if you will, of FUTties. So, and like, you know, one of the ways that we look to deliver that obviously is through SBCs and through evolutions and like the seasonal ladder as well. So that's why you see like, you know, pretty top tier SBCs being released on the regular.
Like the Jap Stam.
Yeah, Stam is definitely one of them he'll be around for a while. Well, a while. There's not much time left in FC25.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you'll see us continue to lead into this space in terms of like the power of the items and the accessibility, like the price, the squads that we require for the player SBCs that we release in this space, up until the end of FUTties.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, they're telling me to check Evos. So I know there's probably another SBC today, but let me go to Evolutions and check this out. Okay, that's new. The Crossroads 1 and 2. Passing up to 94, it's for a center attacking mid. It gives max 96 pace, max 98 positioning. It gives Tiki Taka, quick step, regular, technical finesse shot plus. All right, let me see what fits for me. Not a 95. Voltamata fits. That's who Sway is going to be evoing.
Yep.
Cruyff fits? Wow, 97 pass, 93 shooting. That's pretty good. So if I want more attacking, upgrade to him there. Cruyff looks decent. Musiala, KDB. Oh, yeah. Okay, 97 passing, that's the boost. Up 4 to 97, up 10 stamina to 95.
What are the playstyles? Tiki-tac?
Technical and finesse shot plus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's see. It was max 95, right? I think that's what it was. I might just have to submit him in there.
Yeah, it's max 95.
And okay, there's two versions here. So that's one thing we saw last week with the Choose Your Own Adventure Evos. I loved that. Is that a new thing? Like, is this a test at all, or is this just like we wanted to give you guys two Evos with one of them having less games and being paid, and one having more games and being free?
Yeah, I mean, we're always testing stuff, obviously. Yeah. I think one of the things that we did see a ton of success with was, or at least in terms of the community feedback around it, was the sort of like choose your own adventure kind of evolutions. Admittedly, they were a bit confusing. Just the different screens that we have to try and communicate that kind of stuff is not exactly where we want it, right? So like the sort of player picks and the fact that you could put the Evo into a thing that would actually lock it out of a future step of the Evo. We know that was not ideal. And I think one of the things that you'll see some stuff coming out in early FC26 that'll allow us to like better communicate sort of like the actual Evos and what they can be chained into and all that kind of fun stuff.
Okay.
But we sort of know that that's a known problem space, if you will. But yeah, I think these kinds of like build your own, create your own path kind of evos are definitely something that we're looking to sort of build on and sort of take the community feedback and do more of them.
Yeah, I know what you're mentioning there because it was this Evo for those. Was it Centurions? No, not Centurions. I can't even remember the promo. Immortals.
Immortals.
Build your own Immortal.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one where there was a lot of different hoops to jump through.
Yeah.
And I think it got really confusing and all of that.
Yeah.
All right, so that was Evos. There was one more SBC, I think. Did Leafs do the content command? I thought I saw it. We have a command every day if you type in the chat !! content, so you can see like what came out.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
95 plus player pick. Okay. Is this the one that, okay, I want to know. 95 plus, wait, that's a big rating increase. 1 of 5, Shapeshifters go to the final, Footies winners, Footies team 1 or 2, rated 95 or higher. How many times can we do it? 1 time every 3 days, okay. So it's more of an elite pick than the 93 plus.
Right.
And that's why it's limited a couple of times.
1 time,
yeah. Let's see, it's an 88 and an 89, which in this stage is free because, SBCs.
Yeah.
Speaking of SBCs, I think probably the biggest question that people have right now is like the SBC bans. And it's probably most applicable to this time of the year because we're fiending the packs, right?
Yeah.
But what is that like something? I know it's set in place because you guys have talked about it before. It's set in place to not allow people to manipulate the game. And at this stage, when we're opening so many more packs, is that something that can just be like coded to be higher? So it's like next year when Footies rolls around, we can do double the packs per day than we can now before getting like a timeout type of thing?
I think like I can't get too much into it.
Okay.
But like heard, and it's something that we're looking into.
Okay.
Like
Sure.
acknowledge that that's super frustrating experience. Like getting into the details around like why the limit's set the way it is and how we're going to change it and that kind of thing. Like probably not something for just this venue, if you will. But
sure.
heard that it's a challenge space.
I'm trying to open the packs. Oh, okay, there it goes. All right, I have so many packs. Do you want to rep an 85 times 10?
Let's do it.
All right. How many of these do you rip in the office?
Quite a few.
Really? Oh,
Yeah.
You press the button.
Sure.
Do you get like unlimited packs or trial packs?
There's some things that we do to test things.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know you can't answer all my questions, and I'm just random asking some.
No, it's all good. I like it. This is fun.
All right. Let me do one more.
That wasn't the best luck.
There wasn't, no.
No, developer luck didn't really hit
Developer
there.
luck. I was trying to, like right before you got here, I was showing my transfer list, and I bought some Julia Gwynns before she got upgraded.
Yeah.
She went up. She's actually down a little bit now, so I didn't sell at the right time. But
Tough.
all right. I have not got a 99 yet.
Yeah.
I'm still chasing that. Sophia Wilson.
And you're continuing your chase, unfortunately.
Yeah. That one was a little unfortunate, but it's all good. Speaking of SBCs, again, and I'll just go full cam for this since we're probably just going to keep talking.
Sure.
Some of the things that you added to like the squad builder this year were awesome.
Yeah.
Like that makes building SBCs on the app and in game a lot easier.
100%.
But like I'm sure you've heard of Pale Tools and like the other extensions.
Of course.
I know those are like against the rules. So are those things that you see the community enjoying, even though they're against rules?
Yeah.
Like, is that how you also get feedback of wanting to add features to the web app? Like, I guess what's your take on puzzles?
It's a good question. I think like if you think back to like when SBCs were first made, they were meant to be sort of this like Wordle crossword puzzle. Like you get in and it's sort of this like interesting challenge to solve because you have to solve this like chemistry equation, right?
Yeah.
And they've obviously like evolved tremendously since then to be essentially like the game's dusting system, right? Like that's how you recycle stuff. And that the design around how you actually interact with that system hasn't evolved with the way that the use case for SBCs has evolved alongside it.
Sure.
And so you in FC25, you did see us start to roll out some of those changes to the squad builder and sort of like helping players try and move through it faster. Pale Tools was certainly an inspiration and other mechanisms like it. But you will see us continue to lean into that space.
Okay.
I'll save the details for later about what that actually means. But
I know
you will see us continue to lean into that space. We don't think it's fun to have this sort of like awkward, maybe friction-filled experience around like menu grinding. We do think that there's some value in there being like a skill to menu grinding and what exactly that continues to look like in the future. Like we want to make sure that's still there.
Yeah.
But sort of the fact that one of the other problems that we want to try and think about too is that, and this maybe it's not as relevant to some of the folks on this stream, who are probably going to skew quite core. But like SBCs just in general are a pretty intimidating experience right now to like a new player, right? Like you come in and you're like, all right, I get this pack, but I've got to get these players, and a lot of these players are like some of the best players in my squad if you're like a newer player, right? So like, does this exchange make sense for me? I don't even know what this like 95 plus pack is going to actually give me. And so anyway, we're looking for ways to try and improve the experience for both like the menu grinders that are like doing like hundreds, thousands of SBCs a year, and then also folks that are sort of a little bit more casual.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that, since we're so deep and involved in the inner workings of the core player base, that's all we think about, and we don't see the broader picture of people who are logging on for the first time. I'm trying to think back to when I played for the first time and what I thought of SBCs. I guess I was already kind of hardcore when they came out, so
yeah, fair.
It was easier to understand.
It was you were just one. What's the nation's? I'm blanking on the name. The like foundation SBC.
Oh, yeah. The challenge. I still have them because I haven't even completed them.
You haven't done them? Yeah. You did that for the first time. You're like, I'm hooked.
Yes. Yeah, like around the world and stuff like that.
It's in the foundations tab.
You're right.
Yeah.
Vegan Nation.
Yeah,
hybrid.
Vegan Nation hybrid. Yeah, the one that sends like the random Brazilian player to the moon like every start of the year.
Yeah. Speaking of other things, FC 25. I think the power curve. I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday too, but like in terms of the hardcore user base, which again a lot of these guys are here that are watching, like it felt like it started really fast. Like we got out of gold cards real quick. And then we got to Team of the Year, and we got Team of the Year cards and Team of the Year Bale SBC and Team of the Year Blueprint Evo.
Yeah.
And it was like, wow, this is insane. But then it just kind of made everything after that taper off, and it didn't feel as worth it. So, like, what was the feedback that you got for that, and how does that implement itself in 26 to help improve that a little bit?
Yeah.
Because I know it's got to be a crazy way to calculate it throughout the whole year. So many decisions with all the promos and cards. So.
Yeah, no, it's a really good question. I'm glad we're getting into this one because there's a lot to talk about here. And I know like this group is probably like the perfect, like your audience is the perfect audience to talk about this kind of stuff. I think so, generally speaking, just kind of like high level, we heard the feedback this year around like the power curve moving too quickly. I think there's a couple times of the year in particular, as you mentioned, sort of at the beginning of the year and then sort of like team of the year into like team of the season time. Were two periods of the year where we moved really quickly. And I think as we head into FC 26, we are going to be making a concerted effort to slow things down, but I do want to get into sort of like what it actually means to slow things down.
Yeah, sure.
But before I do that, though, I want to talk about sort of like what are we actually trying to like achieve when we like say slow it down. And I think there's maybe sort of two example problem spaces or like kind of like experiences that I would like cite. The first is that, and I feel this probably just as much as you guys, like when you buy a player item or you like you pack a player item or you earn a player item for whatever it is, right? Get it from an SBC, Premium Pass, Standard Seasonal Ladder. It's frustrating when that is like your new best striker and then it like stays your new best striker for like a week.
Yeah.
Right? And then like the next promo, there's something that is like just as good, if not better. And that's frustrating. You don't get to like enjoy sort of the investment or the time that you spend to like, get something.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, we want to find ways that we can extend out the life, if you will, of some of the items. That's kind of the one of the things that we're looking to do. The other piece is that just directionally, it's become a really like risky value proposition or sort of like investment, if you will, to like buy an item off the transfer market, especially if they're an expensive item, and then hold that for an extended period of time.
That's facts.
And that's like kind of frustrating. Like you see a lot of people like they basically just have like untradeable squads, or a lot of people just run untradeable squads because they just don't want to worry about they just don't want to worry about the fact that like, hey, like this item might just like collapse in price tomorrow. And so with that in mind, those are kind of like the two things that we're taking back and kind of going like, all right, well, we want people to feel like confident engaging in the transfer market, buying items, putting them into their squads. And we also want to have like just basically allow players to like enjoy sort of the items that they go and earn and just kind of like get used to them, sort of grow affinity with them, etc. So anyway, with that in mind, we're going to be looking to slow down the power curve. There's a couple things that I would you could expect to happen as a result. The first is that like the lifespan, if you will, of some of the like base content at the beginning of the year is hopefully going to extend.
Awesome.
So you're looking at like gold items sticking around for a little bit longer, base heroes for a little bit longer.
Yeah.
Same thing with the icons. The other piece is that especially as we get into sort of like a sort of like a Black Friday through holiday window, and then like team of the year into team of the season, that kind of window, you could expect like the pace at which we're going to like upgrade the stats of the players in those campaigns is probably going to come down a bit as well.
Okay.
Now, exactly what that looks like is still to be confirmed, but you can kind of think of it as the ways that we're actually going to like mechanically do that, if you will. And this is something that like obviously we're going to need to stay close with folks like yourself and the community to make sure that like we're doing this in a way that like feels good for everybody.
Yeah.
Is that you can expect things like the rewards that you get for objectives or game modes, or perhaps the seasonal ladder, or maybe the power of the items that you can create through evolutions are going to come down, right? Like, so to make sure that we can actually slow things down, we have to sort of like decrease sort of the accessibility, if you will, of some of that content. But the important point there is that it's not going to come down, and it's going to come down for everybody, right?
Yeah.
It's like there's kind of the mantra of like, if everybody's rich, nobody's rich kind of thing. If everybody has like all that top tier content, then you have to like keep the treadmill spinning really fast in order for that to be a thing.
Yeah.
So basically, like that's kind of what you can expect. Sort of at launch is that like the overall sort of like mode rewards and some of the other things that you can earn are going to come down, at least compared to last year, and that'll allow us to sort of like slow things down.
Okay.
As I said, that's going to be one that we expect, like the actual sort of delivery of that one, and that, and the tuning around that, and sort of the rewards that we set up. It's going to be important that we try and get that one right, and continue to listen to community feedback around that one, and we'll adjust if folks don't like it, of course. But yeah, that's part of what we're hoping to use as sort of the mechanism to sort of, as I said, slow down the power curve.
Yeah, that brings up a couple things to mind for me. Like, if you think about slowing down upgrading cards, but still wanting to release a lot of content, that's got to be a tough calculation of how do we still release engaging content that feels interesting, that people are interested in, without, making it so much better that it's boosting the curve that much. So
exactly. Maybe if I could add one more thing too there, because I just saw some things in the chat.
Yeah.
Like the idea here too is that as we slow things down, we want to make it the idea here is to make it so that we don't lose some of the sort of directional gains, if you will, that we've made in like accessibility of content. Like if you were to go back to, I don't know, FIFA 18.
Okay.
The gap between folks that have a lot of time to play the game and don't have a lot of time to play the game, or folks that like, have decide to spend money in the game or don't decide to spend money in the game, was much larger than it is today.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And so even though we are talking about taking down sort of like the amount of rewards that you get in like any given game mode, or for evolutions, or through SBCs, or whatever it is, right? What we do still want to maintain though is like the fact that if you are just a Road to Glory player and you're not going to spend any money, you can compete with folks that do decide to spend money.
Sure.
So that's going to be something. I just want to make sure that that's good. I saw a couple of comments in chat about that. Like the goal here is not like a result of this. We will have failed if the result of this is that it becomes more pay to win, right?
Okay.
Like that's definitely not the direction that we want to go. It's meant to just sort of calibrate everybody down sort of at the same rate, so that the speed of things can sort of just slow down and people can enjoy the items that they have for a little bit longer.
Yeah. Speaking of the season pass, that's obviously been a huge thing in 25, and we talked about it a little bit yesterday, how it's really seems so crazy that some of the SBCs and EVOs almost feel like they fall behind a little bit. So starting at the beginning of 26, like obviously for a lot of us who've pre-ordered the game, we're going to get that premium pass straight away.
Right.
Is that one of the areas where you feel like you can help somebody who grinds the game more, is able to buy the pass with either points or coins, and not spend big in the store? That's a place where they can keep up because the cards in the premium pass are like with the power curve, or maybe even moving up as the power curve moves up.
Yeah, it's a good question. I would think just like a high level, we want the premium pass to be, one of the better places to spend either coins on any sort of offer, or FC points on any sort of offer. So if you choose to engage in that, like our goal is to make that to be like the no-brainer purchase, right?
Sure.
Exactly the tuning of that and sort of what that looks like in FC 26, obviously still to be confirmed. And just as I was just saying there around sort of like the rewards kind of being calibrated down, the premium pass as well as the standard pass are going to be kind of calibrated down as well to sort of like match that, right? So it's not, our intention here is that it's not sort of, we're not trying to have like only some of the ships sink and some of them stay at their current level kind of thing. It's important that everything gets calibrated down at the same time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've seen obviously like super positive feedback, not just with the premium pass, in FC25, but just like the seasonal ladder in general. People talking about how that's something that they enjoy. Working towards the SP that they can use to unlock the later levels and whatever it is. And we intend to continue that in FC26.
Yeah, I was literally just talking about that today, and we've been talking about it a lot since the premiums came out. Like, the time it takes to get to the end, like that's a whole calculation in itself, because there's other modes that you can play to grind.
Right,
and
yeah.
There's store packs that you can get a little bit. So, yeah, that's probably, I'm sure, a part of the whole figuring out everything and how it works. A couple other questions before I ask a couple things about 26 specifically, and some of the little bits of info that we've already got out. How much influence does the feedback, since this year is all about like, the club is yours behind us on the wall. Obviously that's gone into a lot of the gameplay. We saw today the gameplay trailer. We've been playing the game a little bit. I'm sure you've played the game a lot.
I have.
How does that feedback on the content side get put into place? You've already mentioned that a little bit with the power curve and with evolutions and stuff. But like with specific promos, I know you can't mention like what's going to come out, but like, I feel like we have less of those like team of the tournament type promos that we used to have. I've seen a couple people, actually I put out a bunch of tweets and Discord messages like, give me some of your responses, and a lot of people were asking for more promo cards from other non-top 5 nations, because they can make Evos, but sometimes it just feels different to see your club and your league rewarded with a card in different ways. So how does the feedback of the community in terms of content continue to shape the promos and the campaigns that we get?
Yeah. Well, so I like to think that on the content side, we are sort of blessed in that we get to react to feedback like really quickly, right? Because like, as we're working through and we're creating different campaigns, sure, there's things that we plan out, well in advance, quarters in advance, multiple months in advance. But we also have the ability to react like pretty darn quickly to things. That's why you'll sort of like see, in like a 2-week campaign, for example, you'll see sort of like week 1 of the campaign perhaps doesn't go down quite as well as we would have hoped.
Yeah.
And there's like certain like smaller tweaks and changes that we can make in the second bit of the campaign. But we've got those like 3 like main feedback mechanisms. So you've got the first, which is like we've got different social listening tools and community managers and whatnot that allow us to sort of like monitor YouTube comments, Twitch, X, Reddit, whatever it is. And that helps us to sort of get like a volume of the actual feedback and how many people are talking about something and like what's generally speaking the tone of conversation about that thing. So you can say like, all right, like what is the reaction to this like SBC or this evolution or the seasonal ladder or the game mode rewards or whatever it is, right? And then you have the second mechanism, which is that feedback hub, right? That's where if people can kind of go in there and give us a little bit more detail about the actual content and then maybe provide some suggestions on how we could adjust it. We can then tie that back to sort of the data that we have about who that person is and sort of the context of like how they play the game and sort of how that may shape their opinion. And then we got the third mechanism, which is the design council, and that's where we can go and say like, all right, like we're hearing this thing from our players, we're seeing this thing in the FC feedback hub. Here's what we're proposing that we actually do about it. What do you think, design council, right? And then we can have this sort of back and forth. So those are kind of like the 3 mechanisms, and then all those things kind of come together, and we then go, okay, what are the things that we can do with the limited resources that we have to like create a good change for players as fast as we can. That's essentially, in a nutshell, the process. And of course, you've got like pretty much everybody on the content team has like these rituals that we have where we go through and like, all right, I wake up in the morning, I chuck on the FUT Weekly podcast, I do my like workout run. I've got different YouTubers and Twitch streamers that I watch during lunch, and then people that I watch after work, and so everybody's got their sort of routines like that. So,
cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So moving into 26, I don't know if you want this at all. I've got a lot.
Actually, yeah, that'd be fantastic. There's a lot of talking.
I have a little bit here, but I had another one. FC 26, we're really excited for tournaments, especially with the announcement of that from the trailer.
Yeah.
Especially with the knockout style. I think that
Sure.
word was used in that trailer.
Yeah.
Because that brings us back to very fond memories of the DKT. Can you speak a little bit to what the tournaments will bring to Ultimate Team and how it'll maybe shape the way that we play weekly?
Yeah, no, it's a great point. I'm glad we're talking about it. I'm super excited for tournaments.
Me
Going
too.
back to the daily knockout tournaments, the nostalgia hit is certainly strong. I think there's a couple of things I want to mention about that. So the first is that when we think about sort of the menu of things that you do, if you will, in like any given week or any given season in Ultimate Team right now, a lot of the time that you spend is in rivals and champions. That's a huge portion of your time. Then sure, you know, some players choose to grind out squad battles. I'm not personally one of them, but some people choose to grind out squad battles. A bunch of players will, you know, engage in evos and they'll complete them in rush. And then you've got a bunch of players as well who are engaging in the cups that we release on a weekly basis and that kind of thing. I think one of the changes that we're looking to make as we head into FC26 is that we're going to try and sort of actually, maybe one thing before I get into that is that another thing we heard from our players is that there's sort of this like feeling of like competitive burnout, right? Like
Definitely.
the amount of the proportion of your FUT sessions, if you will, your FUT time that you're playing, that is like white knuckle, like
Gotta win.
I have to win. This is a really competitive match, and I'm like absolutely trying to maximize the squad that I have here, and I'm playing as meta as I possibly can. That can be kind of that can lead to burnout, right? So one of the things as we head into FC26 that we're looking to do is sort of give players like time back, essentially, right? So we want them to give time back in champions, which I don't know if you've talked about this with your folks on stream yet, but there's not going to be a champions playoffs anymore.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
So you'll get the 5 matches back from champions playoffs, and then the second piece is that we're looking to decrease the total number of matches that it will take each week to get your rivals rewards. It'll definitely be lower than what it was at FC25 launch. That was like, definitely heard your feedback there. Way too many matches at FC25 launch.
That is a dub.
But basically, we'll kind of take that down even compared to what it is now. So the number of like weekly matches that it'll take on average, assuming that you're at like a reasonable division for your skill level, it'll take on average to get your rivals rewards. The upgraded rivals rewards will come down. And then what we're hoping that you can do, sort of with that like extra time, if you will, so that you have back, is we want you to like vary up the kinds of gameplay experiences that you're doing.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to sort of use like tournaments and live events and gauntlets sort of as like almost like they are like the content themselves, right?
Sure.
Like, right now, campaigns are the things that sort of like different, or campaigns are, I think you guys kind of call them promos. We call it, it's an interesting thing, we call them campaigns internally, you guys call them promos.
Yeah.
Anyway, but like promos are sort of the ones that, are sort of the thing that sort of help differentiate, week to week, season to season, whatever it is,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
And you've got sort of like the traditional piece of content, SBCs, objectives, and whatever, evolutions that sort of help like make that campaign what it is, and the squad release obviously is an important part of that too. We're hoping to use live events, we're hoping to use tournaments, we're hoping to use our gauntlet feature as like one of the things that is like the live content. That's sort of like the thing that goes like, oh, this is the thing that differentiates this experience from another. So like when you think about tournaments, sure, I think you're going to have some of those like quick hit sort of opportunities to kind of get in there, and maybe it's more akin to like a daily knockout kind of style thing. Exactly what that looks like, who knows, and we're going to experiment with a bunch of stuff, and obviously we're going to be looking for feedback to go like, this was fun, this wasn't fun. I'll tell you, one of the things that I am most excited about though is that we have the ability to do what we call chained tournaments or chained events, right? So you can basically create something where the qualification requirement for a tournament is that you do something else, and that something else could be maybe you have done well in a previous tournament, or maybe you have achieved a certain division or in division rivals, or gotten a certain number of wins in champions or whatever it is. So you can imagine a world where you could say like, all right, there's like a qualifying tournament for like an end of season, like super exciting tournament that's like, all right, like I've qualified and now I have the opportunity to go and like play in this like end of season tournament, right? So you can imagine some of the possibilities there that could get quite fun. But yeah, anyway, super excited for tournaments to come back. I want to give a little. That was probably more than you bargained for in terms of the answer, but want to give you a little bit of context.
No, that was great. I think that helps explain too for those who are maybe asking in the chat about like the way the content would go. If there's going to be maybe a less is more sort of approach to an extent. If there's going to be gameplay content, and that's a part of the, like instead of just checking SBCs and evolutions every day for content, like okay, what live event do we have? Like that's part of it too, to help the power curve not go as fast. And to mix up the squads we're playing with. Did any of the feedback that the community gave about those leagues this year, like for the Mycon League, the Maldini, where it was a fixed number of games, and it was kind of like a tournament, but it was also kind of like a cup? Is some of the feedback there, did that help shape
100%.
live events and tournaments?
100%, and you'll kind of see that come to life in sort of the way that we'll roll out some of these live events and the
Okay.
tournaments is we definitely took the sort of the lessons, learnings, if you will, or the feedback from players around like, hey, like a lot of people really like that. Can bring it back? And yeah, so you'll definitely see that kind of thing come back.
Yeah. Some of the chat saying golden goal cups. We really need that. Need XP.
Okay.
More about FC26. You mentioned FUT Champs. There's
Yep.
2 different levels of it now.
Yep.
There's Champs and then there's Challengers.
Yep.
For the reward side of things, last year we had a huge buff
Yeah.
to rewards. A lot of coins. The market saw a huge boost of
Yep.
prices early on because of that, and the rewards all year were, like, I felt like playing Champs each week was maybe more worth it than my Rivals time, because Rivals was more games, good rewards, but Champs is like, I know I only have to play 15,
Right.
and I'm at least getting some pretty solid rewards.
Yeah.
So how is that going to look with the power curve changes and with the structure changes in rewards inside of Champs in 26, basically?
Yeah.
That's my curiosity.
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, obviously, so maybe we'll talk a little bit about challenges first, and then we'll kind of get into some of the rewards pieces. So, obviously, one of the challenges that we have, challenges. One of the problem spaces is that playing high stakes, kind of competitive champion style matches for like good rewards in terms of like your ROI per like hour spent in the game is something that everybody wants to be able to do. That's a fun thing to do, but not everybody is like good enough to qualify or high skilled enough or spends enough time to qualify for Champions Finals, right? And so what we've essentially done in FC26 is we've created a second tier of champions, right? And we're calling that challengers. And the exact tuning of all of this and how this is going to look, not 100% sure yet, but you're probably looking at somewhere in the ballpark of if you are at or above the division of 5 or 6, that you'll be able to qualify and earn champions qualification points through Rivals matches for the like main champions that's kind of coming back from.
So that's still through Rivals.
That's still through Rivals. Yeah, it's the same sort of like qualification mechanism, except once you earn the champions qualification points, you don't have to go through a champions playoffs to get into the finals. So that those 5 matches don't exist. You just need the weekly champions qualification.
Got it.
But yeah, so basically we'll have that sort of like setup that's not too dissimilar. Like the pool of players is not going to be too dissimilar to what it was in FC25.
Right.
But then you'll have sort of a second event that's going to be hosted in the live events sort of like setup where that's called Challengers, where if you're in division either 6 to 10 or 7 to 10, as I said, kind of to be confirmed on the tuning there.
Yeah.
And actually, it could be a number other than what I just said, too. Just a complete disclaimer on the tuning and the division cutoff. I just want to throw it out there. Basically, that's going to be a lower skill sort of like play space for that same kind of archetype of competition, which is like high stakes, limited number of matches, good rewards for the time that you spend. But you're also probably looking at like the actual setup of that is going to have fewer matches than the actual Champions Finals events, which is likely going to stick around 15 this year.
Okay.
And so that'll be one thing where the sort of amount of engagement required, just because that group tends to not be one that the lower skilled players tend to not have quite as much time to commit to the game, so we want to make it so that's kind of like tailored to that group a little bit more.
Sure.
I think one thing that's going to be really important, and again, this is going to be something that we're going to look for feedback from the community on, is making sure that we get sort of the balance right between challengers and champions. We want people to, if they can qualify for champions, they should be going for champions, right? We don't want challengers to be this spot where you can like, it makes sense for you to like smurf down or sort of like intentionally lower your division, relegate yourself in divisions to try and go and engage in that.
Totally.
So the tuning around that is going to be one that we're going to spend a lot of time trying to make sure that we get right, and obviously looking for community feedback on like if and when we get it right. So that's one. I kind of forgot the first part of your question, so if you could just repeat it again.
It was more so about the rewards.
Oh, okay.
Like either challengers versus champs, or just champs rewards in general in this year after they got such a big buff last year.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, they can't go up even more, right?
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah.
I mean, I think just like relatively speaking, the computer's going.
Yeah. Good call.
Want to make sure I can keep seeing the chat. The streamer instincts are still there. So like just generally speaking, kind of harping back to what we were saying around the to make sure that we can slow down the power curve, to make sure that we can maintain sort of the same level of accessibility for different cohorts of players. You will see that compared to last year, that the launch champions rewards will look worse in terms of like the actual rewards, the coins you get, etc.
Sure.
Compared to last year.
Yeah.
And as I said, that's purely there not to like take down the accessibility of the content for one group compared to another. We want them all to sort of like move in tandem, if you will. But yeah, as I said, we're hoping to do that to slow down the curve.
Yeah, but then again, like you're taking away those rewards, but then you have the live events and tournaments that are also gonna, I would presume, have some type of rewards, right?
Of course.
So that would be a little bit of a replacement, and kind of like you said with the time, trying to change your time from just being in Champs and Rivals to spread it out and play different game modes. And,
that's actually a really good point. I want to like double click on that. So basically, like as we were kind of saying, there's no more playoffs, and there's no more, like, we're going to decrease the amount of time that you spend in Rivals each week, right? And so, like, calibrated to the amount of time that you'll spend in those modes now, we're also going to take down the rewards in those spaces. But basically what we're going to do is going to say, okay, well, you're not spending as much time over here. You're going to spend more time in Gauntlet and in Gauntlet and live events and in tournaments. So that's where you can get some of those rewards that'll be moving.
Yeah. I think the live events intrigue me the most because what I enjoyed about some of those cups and leagues was the specific squad requirements that were not super restrictive. And I kind of hope that they're more restrictive in 26 for some of those tournaments. Like, a lot of people have mentioned like bronze or silver tournaments. Like, I know you can't say anything about that, but I hope that's a part of the whole tournament scheme, and just being able to use different players and making your club more important than just your main squad. Right. So I look forward to that.
Totally.
Evolutions a little bit, looking forward to 26. I know a lot of people have been asking to go Evo goalkeepers for a long time. You may not be able to confirm or deny that, but how could evolutions look different in 26 compared to 25 from right now? What can you share about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of exciting things in that space. Obviously, like we will have goalkeeper evolutions, so that's super exciting.
Yes. Finally.
And then there's a couple other things in that space too, around sort of repeatable evolutions as well, is going to be something that's coming back. So basically, the ability for us to do evolutions that you can, kind of similar to SBCs, where you can like do it a limited number of times or a repeatable number of times, or you can do it 3 times every 24 hours, or whatever it is. That's something that's kind of going to be there in FC 26.
I guess that's kind of similar to what we were just looking at, like 2 versions of the same Evo. One's free, one's paid. But it's a little bit different, but also a little bit the same, because we haven't been able to do too many Evos multiple times this year, like these more recent ones have. So, really quickly too, I guess, I know we haven't talked a lot about gameplay, but I heard some of the gameplay guys mention that they make a lot of people play the game in testing so that they can just get a lot of feedback on it. So, like, speaking of gameplay a little bit, what from the announcement today were you the most interested in, and what part of FC26 gameplay, like, took you by surprise the most, I guess? Or what excites you the most?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I just for context for the chat, I'm like a pretty hardcore gameplay person. Like, I play quite a bit. I like to think that I'm reasonably good at the game. I clock somewhere in the ballpark of like 500 to 1,000 matches a year, and can most of the time get myself into like decent finishes in champions.
We're talking like 11 wins, 12 wins?
Like pretty consistently 12. My best this year was 13.
Nice.
Sorry, I said consistently 12. Consistently 11. I don't oversell myself. Consistently 11, 13 was my best.
Yeah, awesome.
Anyway, humble brag aside. So with that in mind, it's kind of like the purpose of me saying that is like my framing is that I tend to be a pretty like core, like kind of competitive online head-to-heads kind of like focused player. And so with that in mind, one of the challenges that we've had for a long time on FC and FIFAs of past is trying to balance the experience for the very wide group of players that play this game. So, obviously, and to some extent, I'm speaking on behalf of the gameplay crew here, and they'd probably do a better job expressing this. But like, some of the challenges that we have is that you've got on one side of things, you have like career mode players, or perhaps kickoff players, or players that, generally speaking, like value the authenticity and sort of want like a more football simulation type experience that feels and looks like the thing that they see on match days, right? But on the other side of that, you've got the folks that are sort of more hardcore, online competitive, head-to-head, kind of the FUT champions, the rivals folks, that they want a game that feels really responsive, has outcomes that are more predictable, and it's just generally tailored for that online experience. And sort of the challenge that we've had in the past is trying to tune for both of those audiences is really hard, right?
I believe it. Yeah.
Because when you make one change where you say, like, all right, we're going to increase the rate at which you can turn, like when you're trying to turn 180 degrees, or the rate and accuracy of passes if you're trying to ask a player to do a complicated pass where it's coming in and they're doing like a 90-degree pass, sort of in the opposite direction. That if you do that for like the folks over in the competitive side of things and an ultimate team, or sort of like online head-to-head, or clubs, that may make that audience happy. But then you've got the folks on the other side of things, and sort of like career, who'd go like, well, that doesn't. No one can actually do that in real life. So why are we kind of shooting it that way? So right. So it's kind of this balance between like a more arcadey kind of kind of competitive balance, as well as the sort of more authentic kind of setup. But anyway, that's a very long-winded sort of context way of saying that I'm really excited for a world where our gameplay team now is going to be empowered to essentially set up different tuning for each of those kind of like SKUs of gameplay, if you will.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And we're going to be able to more sort of in a tailored way address the feedback of players as that kind of comes out. Like I'd say, like as I'm just kind of playing the game, some of the things that really stick out to me, dribbling feels like pretty significantly elevated this year, sort of in the build that we've got. Skill moves feel a heck of a lot better. Someone that does like create a lot of their chances through dribbling and skill moves, that feels a lot better to me. Sure. The passing feels really crisp. Now, obviously, we're playing in kickoff, and we're sort of in what is what we kind of colloquially both internally and externally refer to as like the honeymoon phase, right? So we're confident that there's going to be things that we're going to have to adjust, and we're not going to get the tuning 100% right, from the rip, especially of something that is such a bold change for us in terms of like, hey, we're going to make two different gameplays, right? True. So I'm sure that folks are going to be continuing to on the gameplay side of things are going to be continuing to look for feedback from folks across the year, just in the same sort of mechanisms that I was talking about earlier across those three different sort of mechanisms and getting feedback to make sure we tune it in a good spot. But that foundation is something I'm really excited for.
Yeah, mentioning the feedback stuff, I've talked about the feedback portal a lot over the past year and a half or so that it's been out and available, and I think I keep mentioning it too because a lot of people have had success with it, especially in like the trading community when they get like a market ban for something and it seems really random, like they didn't actually do anything wrong, but something tripped the system and they got market banned. Like they get that resolved pretty quick. But other than that too, I think I just want to reiterate it because a lot of you guys have been saying it here, and even on like the socials, it's like the changes in the game that we want to see are what are being prioritized, like all of the talk about the input delay and the responsiveness and stuff. Like it's one thing to say it, but then like you're actually like doing it too. So I just think we as a community have to continue to keep giving the feedback. If we're happy and unhappy, it's very easy to give unhappy feedback because you're like, I want this changed, and it's less easy to give like oh, this is great, let me take my time and say that. But I think both are still crucial as long as we're continuing to use the portal. Like you guys that are in the streams, commenting on the videos and tweets and stuff, like they use those tools to listen in and get our feedback. Like, I think we have to make sure we as a community keep talking too, and not just saying, not for me, this sucks, I'm out. Like, because then it'll just become better. Yeah.
The phrase that we keep using is co-create. Like we want to co-create this game with you guys, right? Like you guys are as much a part of sort of the development process as perhaps we are sort of in Vancouver as we're kind of developing the game and across the studios across the rest of the world. And I think one of the things I want to mention in this space is that it's one thing for us to kind of come out and say like, hey, we've created this really nice looking trailer that talks about feedback and all these different things, and sure, like we hope what is coming through some of the features that we've put out so far, or we've talked about so far in FC26, is that we are trying to listen to players and action on that feedback more. But like what I want you guys to sort of hold us accountable for is that like we gotta sort of like put our money where our mouth is, if you will. Money isn't the right word, but like our actioned feedback and live content changes and all sorts of things where our mouth is, if you will, right? Weird analogy, but basically what I'm trying to say is like it's all well and good for us to kind of say this, and like obviously the feature set that we have, we hope is something that's resonating with folks in terms of us delivering on that feedback. But we've got to continue to deliver on that, and that's something that I'm hoping that we can kind of hold ourselves to throughout the course of this year.
Awesome. All right, let's do a couple, just for the last couple minutes of the stream, just a couple of chat questions. And some of these you may not be able to answer entirely, and that's fine. Just give me like I can't speak anymore on that.
Sure.
But Already. Storage. Oh, a lot of people have mentioned that, especially at this later stage of the year, a increased size of SBC storage would be pretty nice. Because, of course, I know it's maybe tailored towards the end of the year, like I mentioned about the SBC bans, because we're just, the packs are endless, and that's just the main draw and the most fun part of the game right now. But is that something that would potentially be in the cards based on feedback, like possible?
It's certainly something we could consider. There's no plans to change that for launch of 26.
Yeah.
Still planning to come out with 100 as the limit for that storage, but certainly something that we could keep an eye on. I think like one of the one of the things that we expect to see this year is that one of the things that we saw in 25 rather was that especially around, I think it was like end of team of the season, maybe through team of the season as well, and kind of into shapeshifters and that kind of that period, is that like the price of fodder like plummeted, right?
Oh, absolutely.
And that was like one really obvious way to see it, but like kind of what was happening behind the scenes is that players had like just maxed out duplicate storages because it's like, well, what do I do with like all of this stuff? What do I do with all these like higher rated items? So there's a couple different ways that we're trying to solve that. Like, one will be making some tweaks and changes to sort of our SBC strategy and sort of like trying to find better ways to sort of give good places that feel good to kind of turn in that SBC fodder.
Yeah.
But the other piece is that kind of what I was mentioning before, part of the reason that we want to sort of like make those adjustments that we were talking about to rewards is so that you don't get this content that ends up not being valuable.
Yeah.
Right? Like if we sort of like oversaturate the ecosystem with like too many 88s, for example, then the next time that you pack an 88, it's not going to be worth anything. Right? And that doesn't feel good. That's not fun. That's not fun for anybody. So that's kind of like not a direct answer to like the the actual duplicate storage piece, but like you could expect our hope would be that if we get that right, that you will have less of a need to like ask us for like an increased duplicate storage.
Sure.
Because you won't have useless fodder collecting dust in your duplicate storage anyway.
Fair. I think that's a great key point you touched on there too about packing cards and making them feel worthwhile.
Yeah.
Even if it's just an 88 or an 89 rated, like knowing when you open your rewards that if you hit one of those, you're like, hey, I'm getting 10K or I'm getting some coins here for this from a tradable pack.
Yeah.
So I think, the mix of the packs and the SBCs changing hopefully will alleviate some of that pressure that the market saw this year and some of that. So,
right.
How about 0-0 quits?
Yeah, a good question. So, I mean, you would have seen in FC25 that we released sort of like let's call it like the first phase of us really trying to go after this one. We've seen this feedback for ages, and I'm happy that we're like finally starting to get some real change in this space.
That is nice.
It's still not perfect. We're continuing to try and make it better, but basically, as I said, FC25, we had the change where if somebody given like the right conditions, so it had to be like the red card, the penalty kick, past the 45th minute, etc. If somebody quit through the menu, so they paused the game, they scrolled down, they quit, then you would get the win if it was in a draw state, right? What we're adding in 26 is now it's not just menu quit, it's any kind of quit or disconnect, right? So you could like kick your console, you could turn off your router, you could DDoS somebody, whatever, right? Like, actually, DDoS wouldn't count. No. Anyway, they have to initiate to quit. Anyway, but if basically any way of quitting is now something we believe is something that we're going to pick up and be able to give you as the win. Right? It's still set up such that like the actual conditions aren't exactly where we want them to be, and we'll give more details about what that is. But like again, phased process. We know what the end state is. We want to be able to get to that end state, but we just have to make sure that we balance for like sort of the bad actors, right? Like sort of the folks that could exploit that system. I do think we'll get there eventually, but you'll hear more about that as we talk about it at the release.
Speaking of bad actors, a lot of people are wondering about PC, and of course this year there was a lot of conversation of PC crossplay with Xbox and PlayStation. Can you confirm or deny if that's going to be still a thing going forward, or are they going to be separate this year, kind of like previous years on PC?
Yeah, so the transfer markets will still be separate, right? So separate.
Right.
Yeah, so you're still going to have a PC-specific transfer market, and then you'll have sort of a console, if you will, specific transfer market. And like in terms of like things that we're going to try and do to try and go after that, that's probably not something that I have the right expertise to kind of really dig into. So I would leave that to our folks on the security team. But like, rest assured that like, we see the feedback, we feel it ourselves. It's really annoying when you come up against a cheater, and there's people working on that and trying to make that better.
Here's a good question from Josh. Will season passes be spread out a little more across the season for progressing? Can there be a system where SP earned past the last level is still rewarding? So like you get to level 40 in a season, you're done, but you still have maybe a week left. Is there any other content plans or anything you know of that would give you a little bit of rewards after you max out a season pass?
Yeah.
Not anything huge, but like something.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, it's not something that like I know of any concrete plans for launch of FC 26, but like have heard that feedback, see that feedback. Like you could imagine a world where perhaps, and I'm just kind of like spitballing here, but like there's probably things that we could do to kind of say like, hey, like every X amount of SP that you earn beyond a certain level could be something that you could give you some sort of reward, or maybe you could have it so that the actual items that you earn in the season pass could be taken into like a live event, and their requirements for the live event or something like that. I don't know. As I said, I'm just kind of spitballing.
Sure.
As I said, there's nothing planned for launch of FC 26, but hear that feedback.
Okay. I've seen a couple questions about draft as well. Is there anything you can confirm or deny about FUT Draft, the longest standing mode that hasn't had a big update like a lot of the rest of the modes have?
Yeah. It seems like you're like hostage questioning of confirm or deny.
I know, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, so like I think there's we believe a lot in draft. We think it's a really fun experience. I think while there's no major plans for like big overhauls to the actual functionality of draft and like how that works in FC 26 so far, what you can expect is some adjustments that we'll make to the actual rewards throughout the live service. So the rewards at launch are going to be like essentially very similar to what they were in FC 25, but you can expect us to give a little bit more love to the rewards post launch.
Okay. I'll do one more question because we're about out of time, but I think this one's good. It's about the season pass as well. Will there be ways to, like, let's say you complete the first season pass, and like in Call of Duty and Fortnite, you can at the end redeem a token that unlocks the next one for you. Is that going to be something that we could see in the season passes this year of 26?
Okay. Yeah, good question. So no plans for any mechanisms like that would like directly give you like, okay, I've earned a thing and now I can like take that thing and it's like my entitlement to the next pass. But like you do have obviously like kind of our soft way of doing that, if you will, is that you've got some of the tradable content in there, right? And through that tradable content, you can take that content, you can quick sell it, you can sell it on the transfer market, you can get some coins, and then you can kind of like fund partially the next pass. So that's like one way of like kind of getting there, but to that question specifically, no, there's no plans for that.
Okay. Yeah, I do remember that even when the first paid pass was released, like that was the point of the tradable packs, was to help you recoup some of that cost that you were originally putting forward for that. So that totally makes sense. All right. Well, I think we've used up our time. That was a blast. Thank you for answering all those questions. I know that was a lot of talking, but I think the chat is excited to at least see you back on the stream. Like, we haven't seen FUT Economist in a long time. Yeah,
so. It was a lot of fun. I felt some of the like OG streamer instincts coming into play. Like I always want to look at chat.
Yep.
But
you said value proposition too. I think that was very common terminology back in the streaming days.
No, it was fun. I appreciate you guys welcoming me back. Thanks for having me on. This was a ton of fun.
Yeah, it was a blast.
And, good stuff. Bring on 26.
Bring it on. All right, lads. So I think that's going to be the stream for us today. Thank you guys for tuning in. I appreciate all of you. I know I missed a bunch of subs, bits, a lot of questions, but keep commenting under some of the tweets that I put out. Keep using the feedback portal. We're talking about a lot of stuff here through all of your concerns. We are trying to get them heard because they want to hear our feedback and implement it into the game the best they can and make the game the most enjoyable for us. That's the message that we keep hearing, and honestly, with the stuff that's been added to the game, like they're making an effort to do that. So that is really cool to see. But I appreciate you guys, man, and I will see you on a video normal time tonight, tomorrow. But I will not be streaming until Thursday because I get home late on Wednesday. All right, Dr. Jared, Crows, Blackwatch. Thank you guys all for chilling, man. I appreciate the love. Say goodbye to Jamey as well. Wave a goodbye. Love you guys. Thank you so much. And I will see you later. I'm out, guys. Peace.
See you again.